Hey guys, it's Riley here from The Watchmen. So this is going to be my spoilers discussion and hopefully explanation of a lot of the moments from Infinity War. So yeah, like I said, spoiler warning. You've been warned. Watch this at your own risk. If you haven't seen the movie, please don't watch this if you really want to get the full enjoyment and experience out of it. But here we go. So as we started the movie, we get thrown basically right into the action as Thor ship is kind of raided by Thanos and the Black Order, and they're on the ship, and it's a very powerful moment as he's sort of gripping Thor, and Loki's trying to play his way around. You're not sure if he's gonna give up his brother to give away the Tesseract, or to like join Thanos again. But I'm sure Thanos has very little respect for Loki and the fact that he failed in his invasion in the first Avengers movie. But yeah, it felt like they just kind of threw away a lot of the Asgardians, like literally, and it almost kind of made you feel like Thor's success within Ragnarok made it feel almost pointless in a way. And I felt that kind of overshadowed the importance of his success from that movie. But beyond that, like when Thanos he kills Heimdall, but in Heimdall's last attempt, because Hulk gets the shit beat out of him as he runs up starts punching Thanos, and then they teleport the Hulk back to Earth and landing right on the sanctum of Doctor Strange and Wong. But yeah, you can just see, and when he finally grabs Loki, after Loki tries to stab him in the throat, which is obviously not going to work for him. Yeah, you really felt the impact of Loki's passing, and well, as they've done before, Loki's not really died at least twice. So, but he's actually, I'm about 99% sure he's officially gone within this movie. And then Thor's kind of left stranded in space until the Guardians come along later. But a lot of the they kind of jump. I'm going back to Earth here. You kind of jump in with the relationship between Scarlet Witch and Vision, because to be honest, there was only one key scene from Civil War that hinted at the possibility of a relationship between the two, possibility of a future relationship, and they just decided to kind of throw us into their relationship. I get it, like you could tell that there's interest between them in Civil War, so I was accepting the fact that they just kind of threw right into their relationship. That was fine. But then you see Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive come to take the gauntlet what am I talking about? Hello? They come to take the Mind Stone from Vision and Scarlet Witch. And yeah, that was a pretty intense little fight until Cap shows up with Falcon and Black Widow, and they kind of beat the shit out of those two. But yeah, that before that happens, you have the interaction with. I do really like the pairing of Tony Stark and Doctor Strange. It was really interesting to watch them sort of throw a little bit of banter back at each other. Obviously, not knowing. I mean, Doctor Strange, I'm sure he knows who Tony Stark is, obviously, but Iron Man being briefly introduced to the mystic arts of Doctor Strange was really fun to watch. But yeah, the New York scene where Thanos first rolls up. It's not even Thanos. It's a Cull Obsidian, who's the big, hulky looking villain, with Ebony Maw, who's probably the best of the Black Order. To be honest, the Black Order, it's fine because I was expecting them not to get a whole lot of focus. But one thing that's good is that all of them felt very intimidating. Ebony Maw is the one who sort of has his hands together, and he's the one who uses like telekinesis, and he's sort of a sorcerer of sorts from the Black Order, and he's probably the most interesting because he's kind of like Thanos' spokesman. He's like, you are relieved to be inside, or you are relieved to be killed by the children of Thanos. And he's very, he's like his religious spokesman in a way, saying how it's a privilege to die from the children of Thanos. Rejoice! And it just felt very creepy in the way his little announcements were. But so him and Cull Obsidian roll up on Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Wong, and Hulk. But Hulk's refusing to sort of come out of Banner because I'm assuming it's because he's scared of Thanos after Thanos gave him a whoop down back on Thor's ship, which I guess makes sense. But I think I know why they decided to. Throughout the whole movie too, you have Banner without the Hulk, and I think they just wanted to show more Mark Ruffalo as Banner, which I get because we just got a whole film with him being Hulk basically the entire time and smashing things up. I understand that, but the first, like I said, the action continues throughout the whole movie, and this is the first two engagements we get. Or the first engagement is the one on Thor's ship with Hulk fighting Thanos, and then Loki trying to kill Thanos, and then you have the whole fight in New York with Spider-Man, when Spider-Man comes in to help Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and Banner. That was a fun little fight, and then Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange get stranded on the ship following Ebony Maw, who abandoned Cull Obsidian on Earth, who lost his arm through a portal or whatever. And then you had the fight with Cap when Cap rolls up with Falcon, Black Widow, and then, like I said, they beat the shit out of Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive. That was a really cool fight scene, and they beat the shit out of Vision, and to be honest, Vision gets the shit beat out of him throughout most of the movie. But yeah. Another thing too that actually I'm surprised that worked so well was the use of a lot of comedy throughout the movie, and it's more prominent in the first half of the film when characters are meeting each other and their arcs are kind of colliding, which makes the most sense because it's not gotten as serious quite yet relative to the threat level of Thanos and his boys. But the comedy actually worked really well, to be honest, throughout the movie. It's, like I said, it's more prominent in the first half, and it's sprinkled a few moments within other characters meeting each other in the second half of the movie. But there was a couple of moments with Drax when this is after Thor had left with Rocket and Groot to go to this forge to build his new hammer, but they're on the Milano, and Star-Lord and Gamora having like a little conversation about how, because she knows the location of the Soul Gem, and they're talking with each other. She doesn't tell Peter that, but she makes him promise to kill her in case Thanos ever catches her, because that would mean she would have to give up eventually the location of it. So that was pretty intense. But then Drax just kind of has this forced couple lines. It's funny the first few things that he says, but then it gets just a little too much. I've always liked Drax, but to be honest, there's some moments, even from Guardians 1 and 2, where he has very forced comedy. I'm blanking on specifically what he was saying, but you could tell it was very forced, and I was cringing a little bit just from that. But yeah, going to some of the things that I was saying in the non-spoiler review about new characters that I did not care for, were quite cringy, to be honest, was as Thor shows up to the forge in the heart of the Dying Star, where the dwarves are supposed to be, that make these super melee weapons like Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. You meet Peter Dinklage's character, who's like he's like, I don't know, like 20 feet tall. Basically he's himself, just 20 feet tall instead. But he does this weird, he does this very strange voice that makes you just cringe, and I remember I was seeing it with my friend, and we just started kind of laughing at each other because his voice sounded so weird. He was like, you know that'll kill you, right? He's like, that's gonna kill you, to look out. And oh god, it was so cringy. I don't know how to explain it, but his voice was so strange. Peter Dinklage is a great actor. When you throw in these, I'm surprised no one said anything to him. Just do your normal voice instead of this weird deep voice that he was trying to do. It's hilarious to listen to. It's obviously not meant to be funny, but I was laughing at that. And then the other couple things that didn't quite work for me was the rest of the Black Order was pretty good. Ebony Maw was the best. But it was Proxima Midnight. Her motion capture and her CGI just did not quite look right. It was in a lot of the ways she was moving, especially when she was fighting that first engagement with Captain America, Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, and Falcon. You could tell just the way she's moving around that just didn't quite look right. And there's a moment too where she's like up close talking with some of the members of the Avengers, and her face, man, just does not quite look right. Switching to another moment here, you had the little moments, the little storyline with Thanos bringing Gamora to find the Soul Stone. She tells him it's on some planet called like something with a V, Voltamir. I can't quite remember. But they go there, they show up, and some guy in a hood is like, Thanos, I know exactly who you are, but you have to know that the Soul Stone comes at a cost. And it's kind of this eerie, dark location, and then the guy steps forward, and you find out it's a Red Skull. And you're like, holy shit, like, he's been gone since the first Captain America. To be honest, most people, I think a lot of people forgot about him, to be honest, because he was sucked up in through the Space Stone, through the Tesseract. And I thought it was a nice little moment to some of the fans just to see Red Skull again. And he's obviously been there ever since that moment. And it looked as if he's kind of given up his pursuit for power. And he talks about how I used to wield an Infinity Stone too until I was cast out by its strength. And he tells Thanos that there's a cost to get the Soul Stone. You have to give up a soul for a soul. But it has to be somebody that he loves, and everyone thinks, well, Thanos doesn't love anything. And Gamora laughs too. She's like, and all this time the only way to get it is having the loves of somebody, and you don't love anything. And then he starts crying or tearing up, and he turns to look at Gamora, and he says, she's kind of making fun of him. She's like, tears, really? And what are the tears for? And then Red Skull's like, they're for you. In fact, what's funny is that it's not Hugo Weaving as Red Skull. It's an actor from the Walking Dead, who plays Aaron in The Walking Dead. I can't remember the actor's name, but I thought that was... And to be honest, I didn't really notice that it wasn't Hugo Weaving because he sounded a lot like him. And plus, it's hard to notice Hugo Weaving through all of the makeup of the Red Skull's facial structure. So that was an easy thing to miss. It's not really important. But anyway, so then he throws Gamora off the ledge, and it's it was honestly probably one of the more emotional deaths of the characters within the movie. And not even just for the audience, for Thanos himself, because he really did love Gamora, and it was quite intense and sad. And I remember feeling throughout most of the movie, mostly after that moment, I felt very worried. I was worried because I didn't know who they were gonna put on the chopping block and send away. And like I was worried, man. I was worried for my characters, my favorite characters, that their passing was to come very soon. But then kind of moving on to the big setup for the big battle, the one with a chunk of the Avengers with Wakanda fighting the giant Outrider army. It's led by whoever's left and living of the Black Order. So Corvus Glaive Proxima Midnight, and then Cull Obsidian. Cull Obsidian is the big hulkish guy. But the battle was super intense. It was super fun to watch too, and that was a really fun extended fight scene. But you can tell that like the Avengers are whooping ass. They're winning. They start winning as you see towards the end of the battle when Thor rolls up with when he like teleports in with Rocket and Groot. And there's like another little comedy moment I'm thinking of specifically that we get that's pretty funny is when Groot shows up and he gets teleported in with Rocket and Thor, like I was saying, and then Groot shoves his arm through a bunch of three Outriders and like throws them onto the ground, and then Groot yells at Captain America and he goes like, "I am Groot," obviously, and then Captain America's just like more confused and he's like, "I am Captain America," and it was pretty funny. And simultaneously, at the same time, you had the fight on Titan, where the Guardians and Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and Iron Man tried to ambush Thanos while he was on Titan, and it's a pretty fun fight scene. It's just awesome to see all these characters work together to sort of pin him down. There was one moment that kind of bothered me where, I mean, it makes sense why this character freaked out the way he did, but they have Thanos pinned down and Mantis is on top of his head, like trying to put him to sleep or sort of subdue him. But he's really strong, so it's hard for her to keep him subdued. Well, they're trying to grab the glove and take it off, the gauntlet. And Spider-Man and Iron Man are trying to rip it off his hand, but they're talking about Gamora, and he's like, "Where's Gamora?" And Nebula knew that they went to that planet, but never came back with Gamora. And Mantis is saying how he's mourning, and then they figure out that Gamora is gone. But then Quill freaks out and starts punching him in the face with his gun, and that makes Mantis lose her grip, and then he kind of wakes up, and then they literally have the gauntlet off, like it's going past like the tips of his fingers when Peter starts smacking him in the face, and then it just screws up everything. And then Thanos beats the shit out of everybody. And there's this super emotional moment too where Iron Man's with he's sort of 1v1ing after everyone else has been beaten down. He's 1v1ing Thanos, and Thanos, because of the Soul Stone, he has a lot of knowledge of the universe. And Thanos talks about how he's had visions of Stark. He's like, "I know you, Stark." And he has this throwdown with Stark, but you can tell Tony's just trying to give everything he has because of his nanite suit, that it starts to lose a lot of the nanites, so he's moving like the nanites from his legs that cover his legs to his arms, so he can keep shooting him with his gauntlet, with the blast from his gauntlets and stuff. And in that last attempt, his helmet is sort of falling apart, and as Tony is sort of moving all the nanites around to his arms to enhance the weapons, he stabs him with his own sort of dagger from his suit, and it was super emotional, and we all thought that was going to be Iron Man's end right there, and I would have accepted it too if that was going to be Tony's fate, but no, it wasn't going to be. And then Thanos sort of clears out to go back to get the last stone, because Doctor Strange gives up the time stone to Thanos to save Iron Man's life. And then we transition back to Wakanda, and like I said, the Avengers and Wakanda have beaten back the Outriders, and you can see in like Thor's destroying their ships as they're escaping. But then it gets super quiet, super ominous, and then Thanos teleports in, and then there's this super beautiful moment where and Corvus Glaive earlier had secretly snuck in to try to kill and get the stone from Vision inside of the facility. So he gets kind of knocked down. It kind of also ruins the purpose of Shuri, when Shuri's like sort of outsmarting Banner, and that was a fun little character moment, but it almost felt pointless because she never got to finish what she was doing in removing the Soul Stone from his head. But that's another thing. It just felt a little wasted moment for the sake of a character moment from Shuri. But then they, like I said, you're about to have this really beautiful moment, and not beautiful in a good way, but beautiful in a world-ending way. So all the Avengers are trying to, they get in Thanos' path to they just try to fight him before he gets to, he's sort of like walking his way over to Vision. He's with Scarlet Witch, and Vision's like, this is the only way, this is your moment, this is, you have to destroy it. And all the Avengers are just kind of rolling up on him, on Thanos, but he's barely moving his arms at all. He's just kind of squeezing the gauntlet and moving it slightly, and everyone's getting destroyed as they, one by one, as they try to stop him. And then Captain America has the moment where he gets some pretty solid hits on him, hits in on him, hitting him in the face with like the sort of shield gauntlet things from Wakanda. He's hitting him in the face a couple times, but then he's grabbing the gauntlet, and you could tell he's giving his all to try to hold him back here. And then Thanos just punches him right in the face and like knocks him out, basically. Super, super emotional. And then he makes it to Scarlet Witch, and Scarlet Witch starts blasting him with her energy, and then she blows up Vision, and it was pretty intense. But even Thanos is like, I understand, and she's like, you'll never understand. But then he just uses the time stone to bring Vision back to life and unexplode him. And all he does is he rips the stone right from his head. It's a very, very emotional moment. And and then Thor as he adds the last stone to his to the gauntlet, you can see he kind of gets shocked by all the power, and he starts absorbing all this power that he's just ingested in a way. And then Thor comes in with his axe hammer and shoves it right into his chest, into Thanos' chest. And then you can see as if Thanos is sort of dying in a way. His eyes start to close, but then he looks at Thor and he says, you should have aimed for the head. And then he snaps his fingers from the gauntlet, and then he's sort of Thanos is sort of shot into like a soul world where he's looking at young Gamora and she's like, did you do it? And he says, yes. And then she says, at what cost? And he says, everything. And it was just another one of those moments where you're like, wow, Josh Brolin did a great job as Thanos. And then but then you start to see all the characters, or at least some of them. First he teleports himself away, but then it's just this super, super just dead silence as people start fading and turning into ash in front of everybody's eyes until basically it's just Captain America, Rhodes, so War Machine, and then Banner, and who else? Okoye, and Black Widow. Let's see who else. Who survived? There's Rocket too. Rocket was there. He didn't die. But probably one of the more emotional parts is back on Titan. You see Spider-Man starts fading away, and he's like, Mr. Stark, I don't want to go. He's like, I feel really bad. And you can see he's fading away, and he's like, and then Stark is holding him in his arms as he's like fading away, and he's like, I'm sorry. And that's probably one of the more emotional points. I mean, to be honest, we know Spider-Man is coming back, and then Doctor Strange whittles away, Star-Lord whittles away, Mantis, Drax, they all whittle away until it's just Stark and Nebula. And it was a pretty emotional ending there, despite knowing some of those characters will eventually come back. But yeah, the movie was very emotionally impactful. You could tell everyone was dead silent in the theater at that moment. But yeah, and then we kind of get to that end credit scene. We see Sam Jackson as Nick Fury's with Maria Hill, and they're driving around, and then they notice a car crashes and there's nobody in it, and then they see a helicopter crash behind them because there's no pilot, and they're just trying to wonder what the hell's going on. And then you can see Nick running to his car to grab some kind of intergalactic pager and as he's fading away with Maria Hill, he sent some message from his intergalactic pager, and then you see Captain Marvel's symbol on the pager, and then you're just like, oh well, sure, here she comes. She's going to be in the fourth Avengers movie. But they did by the end of this movie, they did a setup to try to show what's going to happen with each of these. They temporarily killing some of these characters opened up a lot more opportunity to give some in-depth emotional moments with lesser characters, so that way it could be more well structured and put together, and you can bring characters off the bench that weren't there, being Ant-Man and Hawkeye, and even Captain Marvel in the next Avengers movie. But it's going to be one hell of a fight looking for Thanos and try to undo the wrongs that he's committed. So, but yeah, movie Infinity War was really good, solid, and I'm looking forward to the next one for sure. But yeah, we still got two MCU movies in between the next Avengers movie. We got Ant-Man and the Wasp, which will actually be taking place before the events of Infinity War, so you won't see the aftermath of like half the world being gone. And then also we're going to see the Captain Marvel movie just before the next Avengers movie. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I know this is a pretty long video here, but that's for those that like talking about the spoilers. But yeah, but for the most part, yeah, this whole arc was all from the comics of Thanos's quest to get all the gems, and it was pretty intense, well done, super emotional. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Like I said, I know this is a long video, but it's for those that really are interested in talking about this Marvel stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching. This is Riley from The Watchmen. See you guys later.